So I'm glad I remembered. Yay. Oh, we have a principal. Yay. So if you are an administrator, I would recommend that you go to our sister site, Administration, Science of Reading for Administrators, what your teachers want you to know. I'm going to be putting a lot of more posts in that site because I want to build up our leadership knowledge. And we're doing some things here in Wisconsin that are going to help other leaders in Wisconsin as well as around the country. So stay tuned. It's going to be good. Oh, we have so many people. This is so exciting. Virginia. Milwaukee, yeah, Mary. Oh my gosh, Mary's here. Mary's going to help me this coming week. I'm doing the biggest education conference we have. We got a table as a vendor, the Literacy Task Force of Wisconsin. So we are going to be talking to administrators and superintendents. I'm really excited for that opportunity to get the word out about, science of reading and structured literacy. And we have Canada represented, another Wisconsin. Yes, Jen, hello, hello, hello. Minnesota, Texas, San Antonio, Mississippi, Ireland. Hello, Clara, welcome. Canada, our neighbors up north. Los Angeles, wow, you guys have a lot of work to do there, I know. All right. Let's see what time it is. It is 3 o'clock. Okay, so as promised, this is really going to be a conversation that we're going to have around just what are some things you're doing. So if you want to volunteer, so what we're going to do is keep everyone, please be muted. If you're the speaker, you unmute, and then what was I going to say? And if you want to speak, just raise your hand. And I have to manage this. I've never done this many people like this before with an open situation. So bear with me. I hope this works. I'm trying to remember, how could we do this? What does spotlight for everyone mean? I'm not sure. Oh, like that. Okay, so what we'll do, so when the speaker's on, people will know. All right, so who wants to get started? Who wants to start and share out what you are doing in your classrooms to align? If you're in a balanced literacy situation, what are you doing that helps remedy that? Okay, Antoine. Okay, where is she? There we go. Perfect.
Okay. So we're doing it from the district perspective. Okay, so I'm a director of early literacy. We're a very large urban district. We have 159 elementary schools. So it's not an easy task. We've been a balanced literacy district for probably close to 20 years, maybe 18, 19 years. That's a lot of minds to shift. And a lot of teachers who I mean, you can look at our data. Our data is public, right? So we're about, most of our schools are around the 40% proficiency level, okay, which is by no means good, right? Mm-hmm. And we have, if we're at 40% is our average, we have many that are also below average. I think one of the things that we're doing is we have partnered with an organization and have coaches in all of our K-3 schools, or in all of our buildings that have K-3. So the coach has about 15 teachers, and myself, we're a group that are the directors of early literacy, and we sort of oversee what's going on and do monthly professional development. The thing is, we have to acknowledge that it's a change, and that yes, you were getting some results, but we can't bash people over the head because we're turning people off. Veteran teachers don't want to hear us, right? They don't want to make that change. And our new teachers are not getting the information in their pre-service programs.
Mhm.
So on the other end of things, other admins in the district are now meeting with the big colleges and universities. So like Drexel, Penn, Temple are now beginning to meet with our admin. I mean, this is where all their teachers come to do their student teaching. This is where most come to get jobs afterward. So we're trying to attack it from both ends, but we're also trying to acknowledge, yeah, I'm the same person who stood in front of you for how many years and told you to do guided reading. And now I'm the person who's telling you, put those books away and take out decodables, right? So it's a humbling experience. And all I can do is we can keep putting the PD out. We're in there and we're supporting teachers. And I think that's the big thing. We've changed assessment. Our assessment is now STAR. So I can tell you, like, one of the huge things with STAR is, as opposed to Ames Web and Dibbles before that, with the nonsense word fluency. Well, kids were given points if if they made the correct phoneme that matched the grapheme. With STAR, it's not like that. STAR, they have to read it as a word. And our kids are getting killed on that one. So like then, okay, now how do we go in and coach teachers into making that switch? So that's the big thing now, because we just got our winter data and comparing it to the fall, and we can see that's a huge deficit.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Antoine. So can someone take notes for me and keep them and then send them to me? Because I want to, anybody, raise your hand or give me a chat if you're going to do that, because I didn't allow for that, but I really want to take notes. And if not, I can do it. Just some, okay, Janet, yay, thank you. Okay. I hope that's for a hand raise for taking notes. All right, who wants to be next? Stacy Haynes. Okay, here we go.
Hey guys. Our school is balanced literacy. I mean, our whole district's balanced literacy. And I've started reading Shifting the Balance. And I'm noticing that we are doing a lot of the things that are in Shifting the Balance, and looking at a lot of the different activities that I've seen aligned to science of reading. It seems like a lot, but when you look at it from the viewpoint of there are things that we're doing that align with the science of reading, it's not a complete change. So we can build on the things that we know are aligning to it and go from there. So it's kind of, I understand that it's a huge undertaking, and I feel very overwhelmed trying to do that as well. But we are doing some things that are aligned, even if we didn't know it.
So how are you changing your data collection?
Well, I'm in special education, so I have a lot of data collection that I do. None of it is aligned really with the science of reading right now. A lot of mine is through guided reading, Fontes and Pinnell, the 3 Qings. That's where most of my data is coming from. But in my guided reading groups, I am doing a supplementary phonics program. I am using oh, I just lost the name of it. Not West Virginia, the other one, Spire, because it's free. So I've been using the Spire, and I'm collecting data and moving up in the levels. So I'm using what they're giving me, but I don't have any official data collection that is aligned with SOR. But I'm hoping that'll change next year because we are adopting a phonics program.
Okay, wonderful. All right, anyone else? I'll take Stacy down. Anyone? Okay, Pam.
Okay, I'm going to try to get through this. I was diagnosed with COVID this morning.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's rampant in our school. Anyway, you and I have actually texted before. I'm in Texas, and all the teachers in Texas, K through 3 at this point, are required to go through the Texas Reading Academy. It's about 160 hours of tests and answers and all kinds of stuff. We have about a year to complete it, which will be next year. And we are also, especially in intervention, we are an F&P district, which I'm really hoping will change after everybody gets done with Reading Academy. I've already changed it. I don't even use F&P except for some of the books with the older kids. The lower level books are useless. And I've switched entirely over to decodables. And then using all the other things that the Reading Academy suggests, which is really all based on the science of reading. So I'm hoping we can convince everybody after they made us take this course that we need to change.
So let me ask you, are you seeing resistance from people because they're being made to take this training?
Yes, because some districts in Texas will pay people extra. The only thing that we are really getting in my district is like tomorrow is a comp day. So they're giving us 3 comp days. And, so there's resistance because basically most of us are, a lot of us did it in the summer on our free time. And then, and it's taking just an enormous amount of time. It's very, very detailed. It's good. It's really good. But because it's such a big requirement during the school year, there are a lot of people resisting it.
So this is like a thing that really bugs me is if all these states, and there's several of them, are requiring all of this post graduate work, postgraduate work. Why wouldn't they go after the schools of higher ed and make them, legislatively get all this training to be put at the undergrad level? I think we need to collectively start pushing for that, because that to me is the crux of the problem. If this training isn't happening pre-service, and then we're expecting teachers to know it post-service, but it's added to their plates as if you guys don't have enough to do on a regular day.
Especially now.
Oh my gosh. If you have a chance, listen to Kareem Weaver. He had a podcast, it was on Amplify. It's very recent. And he talks about how much teachers have to do. You have to write curriculum, you have to do assessments, you have to manage behavior, and the list goes on. And he says, how much can we ask our educators to do? He himself, his first marriage dissolved because he was married to his work. And it's so unfortunate, we're all living that nightmare. So anyway, actually my husband's very good. He puts up with these, I don't know. And I'm retired, so I don't have to go to work every day. All right, who else wants to chat? Thanks, Pam. Okay, let's see how this works. Okay, we got Diane. There you go. Unmute, my dear.
Okay. Hi, Donna. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, you're welcome.
My Patriots are out of the playoffs, so now I don't have to watch football. I can get on Zoom meetings. I'm
We're
I'm
waiting for the Packers to.
okay.
Yes,
All
yeah.
right. I'll cheer with you. So I am in Massachusetts, and I've been studying the science for a couple years now. Really, kind of stumbled on it on the Facebook page, and I've learned so much. But I'm in a balanced literacy pre-K to 2 school that is heavily steeped in F&P and the units of study. We have some folks that are just Lucy groupies. So I started very small. By a recommendation from my daughter-in-law, actually, I started implementing Heggerty in my classroom and 2 years ago, just before COVID started, actually, and started to see, and did it when we were remote too, started to see really some fruit from that labor. And I moved into some other areas, brought a couple of colleagues along with me. So we kind of have this grassroots effort going on right now. I found the CKLA free stuff online, the University of Florida, the West Virginia Phonics, did the 6 shifts, all these little pieces, and lots of webinars with you guys. So I'm so thankful for this page, because for 20 years I've been a kindergarten teacher, and my practice has shifted. And sometimes I have little regrets when I think back of those kids that perhaps we did a disservice to a lot of kids, But anyway, I know better and I'm doing better. So Massachusetts right now has adopted new literacy guidelines. And our curriculum coordinator in my town is 100% on board with the science. So we have a committee right now to look at a program, some sort of curricula for next year. And it has to align with the state guidelines, which is our ace in the hole. But what the first gal that spoke, I agree, there's resistance. We have resistance, and we have to be careful that we don't try to act smarter than anybody else, right? We have to be careful because we don't want to alienate people. Right now, we've started some letters training through our district as professional development. So we're kind of using their scope and sequence. Those of us, there's a handful of us that are really implementing, as the last gal said, decodables, packed away all my A, B, and C leveled readers, just packed them away. But yet I still have to use the BAS to assess my readers. So, you're just torn. And I keep whispering to some of my colleagues, the BAS is going away. I promise it's going away. So I'm hopeful that we're headed in the right direction, because our new materials have to line up. They have to get good scores from Ed Reports, Curate, and Luce, and the units of study did not fare well, of course, with those with Ed Reports and Curate. So I'm hopeful, but my struggle is I'm trying to piece together all this stuff and plan my chain. And it's a lot of work, right? Those of us that are doing it know it, because I'm pulling in from all over the place and making sure, did I do enough of this? Did I do enough of that? I also used Lively Letters Tellian for phonics, which
That's good.
Yeah, we've been using that forever. Actually, that was the one solid we had in kindergarten that we've had for years.
And
so
that's good. So if anyone doesn't know about Lively Letters, it's a mnemonic based approach to sound matching with, right? With with the story that goes behind every sound, and then there's cards, and then there's also some decodable text that goes with it, word lists. Have they added any decodable books to that?
Did they add? Somebody just added. It might have been them. Somebody just added, but I feel it's first and second grade or first graders. I didn't apply to kindergarten. It was a little
sure.
bit and of course now Lucy Calkins is coming out with decodable. So my units of study fans are hopeful we're going to still be able to do the units of study, because she's revamping her program, which is still going to be based on the 3 queuing system. But so the curriculum committee is starting this Thursday. So I'm hopeful that we're gonna have changes. But we're here in the trenches, and I'm seeing results. I'm doing some of the assessments, and wow, kids are, we BAS, we had to do BAS, and then we had to do the words their way spelling inventory. And if anybody's ever done that, it's basically like little CVC pictures like nap and kid, and my kids aced that. Like all my kids could,
Mhm.
you know, encode, but the BAS, of course, they're not using those strategies that other kids are using. So they're not doing so great on the A and B books, but I have to let that go because I'm kind of going slow to go fast right now.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Yeah.
where we are.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, I had to turn my video off. My internet's a little unstable, so bear with me, folks. Okay, we have Heather. Let's see.
Hey y'all.
Wait, I gotta find you. How do I do this? Heather.
Oh, my video is off. I was not prepared to
Okay.
turn my video on today.
All right, funny. That's too funny. All right.
I was last minute sign up. I was just going to say I'm a national letters trainer and I taught special education for 15 years. And just in speaking with teachers across the country, there are so many who are still grounded in balanced literacy, but I have found it really, really helpful just when I talk to teachers and administrators, just to let them know that I too was trained in, I was trained in Fountas Sempanel, I was trained in reading recovery. I was asked to do all of those things. So just making sure that they understand that, I'm not saying as as an instructor, as a facilitator that, I have it all figured out. I've done the things that, I now know are not best practice. But one thing I do get questions about sometimes from teachers is, well, what do I do with all these leveled books? My school spent a lot of money on them. My school, is invested in them. I can't just put them in a box. So we talk about a lot of times that, there could be a use for leveled readers. There could be a use. It just doesn't need to be after your phonics lesson.
That's funny.
That's not what you're asking kids to read. But then I think about my English language learners and I think about children with really limited background knowledge. I have I have 3 personal children, but my oldest is a really high flyer and she has done a lot of work with kids that struggle in the classroom. And she's been given those books to read to kids. They do have nice pictures. They do use some vocabulary that she as a high flyer could talk to those kids about. So I try to, give them maybe a suggestion for something else they could do with them. That's not your phonics lesson. That doesn't go after your phonics lesson. But what else could you use it for? Could you use it for vocabulary development with our English language learners? That is really important to me because then teachers don't hear you say, well, you're doing it wrong, put that in a box and forget about them. Or we've also talked about, I had some teachers say that, they kind of revamped their leveled libraries into units. Like if I'm doing a weather unit, here's a bunch of books, that are leveled readers, but I'm going to repurpose them, use them for a different, with a different outcome in mind. I might have a weather unit or a insect unit or animal unit, whatever it is. So I don't know. I just thought I would share that because that for me has really, it just reminds teachers that we are all in this together. We're all on different legs of the literacy journey. I have done the quote unquote wrong thing in the past, but I try to give them something else to do with those leveled readers. So just a thought.
No, I totally agree with you, Heather. I've heard people say, what do I do with them? I'm like, you keep them because your goal is to get kids to read. So eventually they're going to be able to read them, right?
Right. Eventually we will. It's just not after your phonics lesson when they're little.
I love that line. Right. Exactly. So, if we're doing it right, kids mid first grade to end of first grade should be reading uncontrolled text if we're doing it right. So hang on to them and don't get rid of them. So any other comments? Any other speakers? Because we can take a look at the chat. And then I was thinking of talking about something that we could all do. Okay, we got Nancy.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I also wasn't planning, I just picked up a grocery order, so I was listening in at the same time, but multitasking. I wanted to share just a little bit of work that we did. I'm in California, and we always seem to be behind in everything. But I'm a teacher on special assignment as an interventionist, so I make sure that all of our schools have interventions in place for students. Specifically academic. When I first started this job, we had LLI, level literacy intervention. The 17 interventionists that we had we had one at every elementary school. We on our own started finding those gaps, right? And as a former kinder teacher, there was always this like, wait a minute, why is that phonics piece not matching up with, the leveled readers, et cetera. So as an intervention team, we said, no, we're done with LLI. It's not working for our most neediest students. Then what I ended up doing, and we had a series of directors that came through in our professional development department who didn't have primary teaching experience. So it felt rather easy for me to say like, hey, we need to move away from balanced literacy and go back to what we were doing before. And because they really didn't have the experience, they were kind of like, sure, which is scary, very scary that the person in that position does not have the experience that you should have or the expertise. But little by little, there's two of us. I'm the intervention TOSA, and then there's an ELA TOSA, and we both started like little by little questioning things in balanced literacy that we were taught. Now, don't get me wrong, because in our district, we went a full 4 years of balanced literacy training in different approaches. And one was a interactive read aloud, shared reading, independent reading, and guided reading. The interactive read aloud and the shared reading are still ways that we can help develop the language and listening comprehension pieces. So we didn't completely pull the rug from under folks, because there's still those two approaches that we could use for the language listening comprehension. The guided reading is where we had a big concern, because of course we were using all of the cueing systems. And what was interesting is that prior to balanced literacy, our kinder and first grade teachers had assessments that were heavily phonics based, like core phonics survey. We had phonological awareness. Then we went to DRA. All of that went away and we went to DRA. For the past, I don't know how many years, 7, 8 years, we've had DRA. So little by little, as an interventionist and with my EL TOSA partner, we just started saying, hey, our data just is not showing that kids are picking up those early reading skills that they need to have. And so we started questioning those pieces. Our trainer, or our balanced literacy trainer, her daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia. So she began reading in and doing her own research, got her PhD in reading disabilities, specifically dyslexia. And she became our trainer for our, what we called our Reader by 9 training. And she had that tough task of saying, hey, back in the day, this is what I was training on, but this is what the research tells us. So it was really tough for her, because she was a face of balanced literacy in our district, and now she's a face of Reader by 9 training. And our Reader by 9 training was basically cohorting every single grade level. We cohorted our TK and K, first our RSP teachers, 2nd grade and 3rd grade. And we chose 5 areas of reading, heavily backed by the National Reading Panel, Science of Reading, everything, where we focused on phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Each cohort would go through 1 year of training. So TKK started with phonological awareness. The next year they trained in phonics and fluency, then just fluency, then comprehension and vocabulary. So this year, with COVID and all, we finally finished our TKK cohort of teachers that received that training. And starting, I'm happy to share that starting on Tuesday, our kindergarten teachers and TK this year are not testing with DRA. We are using core phonics survey, the Hegarty beginning, middle, and end of the year assessments. And that one is still up in the air. And we found Cubed has their NLM listening comprehension for those grades. But that's just such a huge milestone for our district that the first cohort of teachers will no longer be using DRA.
That is a huge shift.
So all of that background story to get to that piece, but we couldn't do it with our first and second grade yet, because we want them to go through the entire Reader by 9 training to truly understand what they're doing. With our TK and K teachers, trust me, it wasn't easy, but we basically said, look at levels A1, 2, and 3 in DRA. What are kids asked to do? What phonics data do you get from those levels? And it basically was like, we don't get anything. We have to do our own assessments. Okay, so then why are we spending that time with DRA when it's not giving us anything? Our first and second grade teachers are going to be, they're easier to convince, because they're kind of like, yeah, what, we need this data. Like our groups, those leveled readers don't really tell us what to focus on in those groups. So anyways, it's very exciting. All of our interventionists were rehired, and we've gone through the same Reader by 9 training. I thank you, Donna, because I stumbled upon this group, and 3 years later, I'm like, how did I ever move from my kinder roots? I knew what we were doing and what we should have always done. And so I'm just really excited. And any chance I get, I bring along whoever is, open. Our superintendent is super open to hearing. Our assistant superintendent at services. Our current director doesn't have primary teaching reading experience, but she's open and she's grounded in research. So at least, we have that going. But I wanted to share that it's possible from a district who was heavy balanced literacy for years now. That first cohort we're done with the DRA. I mean, our principals were like, what do we do with all those kids? Can we bring them to the district office? And we're like, hold on, we haven't thought about that part, how to dispose.
They could write thank you notes.
Right. And we still have some teachers that'll say, hey, can we still test in DRA? And I'm talking like second, third grade. And for some students, those other levels, you get some information, but we're very clear to tell them, what info are you not getting from DRA? Exactly. What info are you getting from DRA? Okay, then you know that you need to do some other assessment in phonics for those. We didn't want to pull rugs from under people completely, so we wanted to be as supportive as we get them to that particular level. But yes. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Anyone else? Christopher, I was wondering if you were gonna be brave. Okay, let me see here.
Oh, sorry, I forgot my mic is off. First and foremost, just a little background. I used to be middle and high school teacher. And then 5 years ago, I decided I needed to change. I've got the training, but it's just that I've been teaching middle and high school. I don't know what the system is like in the US, but here in Canada, the system is as such. Once you are parachuted into a new school, basically you're the lowest on the totem pole in that school. So they gave me grades 1, 2, and 3. I had no experience. So I had to do a lot of research. We only had Fontes and Pennell. And then I stumbled upon Sally Shaywitz, David Kilpatrick, Anita Archer, and so on and so forth by accident. Read voraciously and implemented certain systems, did a lot of experimenting. And I began to have success within like half a year. Whereby, and of course, my principal wanted us to use Fontes and Pennell. The rationale there is because it's very expensive. We don't want to waste money. In my mind, I was thinking, yeah, right. And with due respect, I remember the US lost to Vietnam, despite its superior arsenal and the money that it had. They lost to Vietnam. So anyway, I kept quiet, did my own thing. And so this is in response to Linda Green, who asked about how to include SOR with balanced literacy. Actually, I didn't include SOR with balanced literacy, Linda. What I did was I was very stealthy in what I did, borrowing from what Fumiko, I think is Haft
Correct.
mentioned. Yeah.
Mhm.
What I did was, since my principal wanted to see fonts and penal. Now, because of, I've always done this with all my different groups, I insert different materials into binder for different groups, and that's how I teach, including what I call sound boxes, acronym boxes for different groups. And I would ensure that I have a package of fonts and panel books in case my principal were to come in. Meantime, what I actually did was I began to compile results from my students who were improving. Some of them significantly by more than 8 fonts and panel levels in 2 months or less than 2 months.
Wow.
I began to compile. I began to show her. She was very impressed. Unfortunately, just before she retired, she told me this: "You are a very good teacher," but I wasn't able to get to the why and the how. She just retired. But so it's not all gloom and doom. It's just that you have to be careful with what you do and have to be smart in how you do it.
Mhm.
And I think the key thing is results. Once you show them the results, they will tend to believe you. And so I thought I wanted to encourage all of you. It's doable. It's how you do it. And then I've also been able to speak to some of the teachers, but what I have done is to speak to those whom I think are more receptive, even the veteran teachers, those whom I have a relationship with, who are receptive, and then take it from there. And that's, yeah, so I wanted to speak to encourage all of you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
All right, anyone else? Okay, we have, how do you pronounce your name? Juna?
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Donna.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Juna, and I am an instructional coach for literacy at a public charter school in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I feel like I wanted to share today because my situation is pretty unique. Actually, here in Hawaii, the school districts, Hawaii is one big school district. So to get support as a charter school, it's available, but sometimes a little bit tricky because we have much autonomy over what we're able to do, including choosing curriculum. So I think just like Diane shared earlier, we are 100% balanced literary school. It aligns with our mission and vision. And our school uses Lucy Calkins units of study, and we refer to Fontes and Pinnell a lot. We have DRA 3 times a year, and we just got iReady about 4 years ago, which we sometimes pull that for data also. My situation's a little bit unique because we're going through a CEO change right now, and my position as a coach, I think this is the 4th year we've only had a coach, and our RTI system isn't that great at our school, or just MTSS overall. So because of our principal change this year, I was tasked with also assisting with RTI. So I'm basically also coordinating our RTI, which I knew when I was a teacher in the classroom that our system wasn't great. And there was just a lot of systems that weren't in place. So a lot of kids fell through the cracks. As you know, with the units of study, there was always that phonics component missing. So fortunately, we were able to adopt foundations about 3 years ago. But even the implementation of that, our coach at the time, because she was also a cheerleader and fan of Lucy Calkins, it was kind of like, hey, sorry, we were gonna have to do this. And I think she trained them. And from what I've heard, it was only our lower school. So I think it was K-2. And then I think 3rd grade, it was optional for them to get training or even implement it at the time. And so from I heard from lower school was that the training really wasn't that great. And then of course, COVID hit. And so, now I'm not actually sure how much teachers are teaching it with fidelity, especially since it's hard to get in the classrooms right now. So what I'm trying to do in my role, since I'm doing coaching and RTI coordination, essentially is trying to figure out a way to get kind of like these small wins where I'm almost planting seeds of SOR type instructional strategies and practices that teachers who maybe aren't there yet, introducing a sound box for when they say, hey, I have a child that's struggling with segmentation or isolation or whatever the situation may be. And just trying to figure out a way how I could slowly reach the classrooms, because I feel like if I reach the classrooms, I would actually be able to reach my administration a little bit more. So if I break it down into what I've been trying to do, first, because I am helping out with RTI this year, most of the referrals are phonemic awareness or lack of. So, introducing, like I said, those small types of SOR aligned practices, such as sound boxes, or giving them manipulatives and showing them how to have kids segment in a more multisensory way. And a lot of teachers have responded to that. And I can see them using it in small groups. In fact, I think our 1st grade team is interested in science of reading, but they just haven't had the time. So our teachers are fortunate to have a lot of grade level articulation time. So I usually go to theirs about once a month, and then we discuss kind of like a new activity to try. So then that's one way. A second way is, so just, very slowly. And I feel like I've been able to do that with K all the way through 5. I feel like the first thing I've tried to do is like, hey, let me try to get sound boxes into the classroom, and at least this activity. And when I maybe have a larger audience, like if I have time during our faculty meeting to share, then I would somewhat be a little bit more prepared because people already had a seed planted. The other way is, we're fortunate to get a good amount of classroom funds, as well as professional development funds per teacher and per classroom. So this year, I think we, as a teacher, I have 500. Typically, we might even have up to 1,000. Then additional for professional development funds, we have 1,000. So I'm using my professional development funds to sign up for workshops, and or convince my administration to buy resource books, like anything Kilpatrick, Haggerty, shifting the balance of, trying to use that. And then for, classroom funds, trying to buy resources and almost start to build a library of resources that when it's kind of the time, I can bring teachers in to say, hey, I have all these things. Look at these decodables, look at these manipulatives you can use in small groups. And then the last thing, I'm fortunate to also be a part of our school board, and I'm in our education committee. So I just talked to our chair, so I can present a little bit about science of reading. But I also told them, hey, I haven't actually talked to the administration yet about this. So just wanted you to be aware. But I thought that it could be a really rich conversation we have as educators on the education committee. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I really, really appreciate the group that you started, Donna, because I, try to check what's happening in other places all the time. And I appreciate the support that people give, especially if I have a question or, just want to talk. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I really like how you're doing small infusions into what has to change. And that segues beautifully into what I'm going to kind of start talking about some things that we can do. This book was one of the founding philosophies or thinking that was infused with Jan Berkins and Carrie Yates and Shifting the Balance. And this, to me, was the most important thing that I learned from this book. Research shows that when people are resistant to change, it helps to reinforce what will stay the same. Visions for change are more compelling when they include visions for continuity. Although our strategy might evolve, our identity will endure. So you can understand where people are resistant to the change because no one wants to admit, I've been doing this wrong for 40 years or 30 years. It's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. And so if we could gently, with respect and no shame, no blame type of thing, it's Think Again by Adam Grant, get people to realize that, what we're trying to share is 50 years of research that is evidence-based, that will help all kids. We can go on and on. So what I was thinking about today, about how I could, that quote is on page, it's on page 31. Okay. Is to talk about the book Shifting the Balance. And by no means this is not a plug for the book, although I highly support their work. And I had really, I didn't intend on making this event a Shifting the Balance event, but in reality, it really, these two authors, this book, in case you haven't seen it, they were both balanced literacy proponents. They taught it, they lived it. One was, I think Carrie was a reading recovery teacher. So, they had extremely steeped, where I want to show my, I think this is it. My stuff. So if you go to their website, Shifting the Balance, they have just a wealth of information. But what's interesting about their book is they break down the shift that has to happen, right? And so the first shift that they talk about is rethinking how reading comprehension begins. Balanced literacy folks, whole language folks are told
Donna,
that.
I'm sorry, excuse me. It's just a black screen with a white line.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry. Thanks for interrupting me. Let me see here. Here we go. How's that? Okay.
That's good.
So, so they talk about how we have to rethink that. You have to have language, you have to have comprehension, you have to have vocabulary before you can become a good reader. So what they say is, the Fontes and Pinnell and Lucy Calkins, those programs are great if you know how to read, because you're bringing in all that language and you can identify words, no problem. But if you can't, that's where the breakdown occurs. So that's the first step. The second one is rethinking phonemic awareness. Okay, so as you know, much of that wasn't included in our training. And so we're trying to infuse more of that into our science of reading. The third one is phonics, reimagining the way we teach phonics. Okay, so again, we need to see more of that. The fourth shift is revising high frequency word instruction. So instead of flashcard drill and kill, we're going to be doing more of looking at the word, finding the parts that play by the rules and finding the parts that don't, and talk about, sometimes they call them heart words or red words, but finding the parts that don't play by the rules and really showing your students the sequence of the letters, what plays by the rules, what doesn't. It's just a more in-depth approach to sight words. So, you ditch the flashcards and you're going to really work on building all words want to be sight words eventually, but building that knowledge of those words, of what they look like and how you can spell them. The fifth shift is reinventing the ways we use MSV, or the 3 queuing system. So, I mean, if you want to get rid of the number one detrimental teaching practice is looking at the pictures, what would make sense. I mean, that needs to go. That's like the first rule that, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that needs to go. Because you could do so much more if you have kids keep their eyes on the words and sound out the words. You're going to get much further along in progress with your kids. And then the last one is reconsidering your texts for beginning readers. Again, that's that shift from predictable text, or what's the other one? Level text, into decodable text. Okay, it just makes kids own their reading when they can sound out a word. You know, there's nothing better for a kid than that's conquered that code, that has broken that code, and they just you could just see it on their faces. They're just so happy to be able to be readers. So that's what this book is about. We've had Jan and Carrie on our show several times, and I just really honor their work. I just think they do such a nice job. And there's some people that are like, oh, it just isn't deep enough, and it doesn't cover enough of the science. But for people that are resistant, for districts that are resistant, for people who don't have an understanding of what the science is about, to me, this is the best way for them to be introduced to the shift and to understand what that shift is all about. So I wanted to show you what their downloads are. This is all free, this stuff. So the 6 commitments of working, I really, the way they frame this approach, it's like, they want people to really understand that it's not your fault. For example, we commit to, these are the these are just so cool. We commit to being kind to ourselves, making peace with the unavoidable reality that there are things we've misunderstood, and misinterpreted. And I almost felt like I was in church when I was reading this stuff, because it was so spiritual almost, that, as an educator, no one wants to harm kids, and we certainly don't do that intentionally. But, if you're doing the best you can with what you know, right? And so they bring that out. So you can look this up on your own about the 6 commitments. It's just very well done. And then they have these little bookmarks, that's kind of cute. But this one is a teacher-friendly guide to making sense of scientific research. Again, this is all free. This might be something you might want to share with your colleagues, your administrators. And the other day we had on Stacy Richardson's, I can't remember her last name. I think maybe that's it. Maybe she's here today. She said she would be. And she talked about how she was helping her district make the shift. And she came in with a binder full of all this information and had a great conversation with her superintendent. And he was impressed because she was prepared. She presented herself like someone who knew what they were talking about, even though she's still new on her journey, but she's ready to make that commitment. And so, you could do the same in small steps, as we've talked about earlier. This is a poster about the 5 walls and the 5 bridges of things that we encounter in this journey as we're trying to change mind shifts. This is about dialogical conversation to develop oral language. This is what, if you use this process, you will increase your children's comprehension on what they're reading. And it's developed through their oral language. This is all free, phonemic awareness skills development tools. Just some ways to work through, to have PA in your classrooms. This is another assessment. Okay, so if you have to use the BAS, then you could maybe use this in addition to the BAS to get more information that will help you. There's also other, like Quick Phonic Screener is one, Core, what do they call that? I know somebody mentioned it today. I have my book here. Core has a great reading source book, reading assessment source book it's called. And it's got tests from PA through word recognition, through comprehension, through I think there's a spelling assessment too, and it's written in Spanish as well. So look that one up if you're in need of something like that. This is a sound spelling chart that could be helpful. Your cards for, for your lessons, for memory, to increase the automaticity. Sound production video, I have not checked this out. I don't know how accurate it is, so I can't verify that it's good. Short vowels, blends. I mean, look at all the resources here for teachers that are just starting out on your science of reading journey. This one I think is like the cream of the crop here, is their explicit phonic lessons template and what that would look like. Okay. And again, we know that if we start chaining words, word chains are a great way to teach phonemic awareness, either visually or auditorily. So say cat, now say, instead of k, say b, and see if people can do that. Instead of bat, say, what sound do we change in bat to make it bet? That sort of thing. So this will show you how to do that. This is 109 power word lists. Again, kind of like a Dolch list or a Fry list of words that kids should know, all kids should know by sight. This one, now this was very controversial when this book came out. They didn't feel, there was critics that thought that this book wasn't deeply changing the cueing system. So they continued to call it, I can't remember, they continued to keep the visual here. And then, so they've made some changes on their site, and it's called Beyond the Book. So pay attention to that, because they've doubled down on this chapter and have added more depth to it, because they were criticized. And so they wanted to make sure that they were clear on what they were saying in terms of what kids should do when they're reading an unknown word. This one is analyzing kids' mistakes. I don't know. I suppose you could use this. Again, I think this is way too similar to a basic assessment that you're using. Did it look right, sound right, make sense? And so I typically don't do an analysis like this in depth. When I'm assessing someone, I'm looking for how they're miscuing, or did they substitute a word that has the same meaning, which is very typical with dyslexics. Are they able to sound through the word? Can they identify the vowel sound, that sort of thing? That's more of what I'm doing. So I've never used this, so I don't want to say it's bad. I just have never used it. So questions for using the 3 tensions in beginning reader text selection. I've never used this, so I can't speak to it. And this one is kind of cool because it has the 10 titles recommended for your reading journey. And I think many of you are familiar with these, but this one might be something you might want to consider to get people to understand what the science of reading is about. And so there's a lot of text there that are good. So anyway, so that's that. And then let's see here. And here's the Beyond the Book. Okay. And that's another thing about these authors. It's like, how many authors do you know that will correct their thinking after being criticized? They actually took it to heart, and they developed a letter and a, explanation of why they did what they did. So I really have so much respect for them because, they went out on a limb. They have an online class. Oh, now this is what I was going to talk about. So, I don't know if anyone's interested, put your commentary in the chat if you want. Should we do a book study on this book? And if so, would we, you can invite people to the book study, and, we could kind of just keep this alive. And, or if anyone's willing to do this, we could talk about it. You can let me know. But I think this book has so much to offer. So that's it for me. Anyone have any comments? Let's see. Book study would be great. Yes, I'd love to do a book study. Yeah, see. So if anyone's interested in heading this up, let me know. We could talk. Oh, yeah. Okay. So is Kelly Harkins in charge of the Science of Reading book study group? Does anyone know? I have to do that. I'm going to download this chat. Okay. Yes, she is. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe that's the way to go, is have the next book study be on that one site. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a Science of Reading book study Facebook group. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Like I said, this was just an open conversation about what you can do. So again, these shifts in here can easily be done in your classrooms. And you could also start making that shift, not by banging people over the head or, being persuasion is an art, and it's hard to persuade people when they're in their belief system. So, all right, we got another speaker. Spotlight. How do I do that? All right. Kristen. Spotlight for everyone. I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh, I'll stop share. Maybe that'll help.
I didn't.
There we go. There we go. All right, Kristen. Did you want to speak?
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can.
Yes, yep. Okay, great. I teach kindergarten in Iowa. I was just kind of wanting to share some of the differences that I've implemented in my kindergarten classroom. We have Lucy Calkins Readers and Writers Workshop. We also have phonics in the classroom. And as of this year, we're still required to FNP our kindergarten students. I learned about the science of reading through my reading teacher last year. And I was very hesitant to hear what she was wanting to share. She was just simply asking questions. And she asked questions like, should we be using decodable books with our kindergarten students? And at first I was very hesitant to want to accept that input. But then I found out that my students, I'm sorry, my daughter was in the background there. I found out that my students, they needed their short vowel sound work. So I just started I really set out on a mission to prove the reading teacher wrong. Well, in proving her wrong, I found out that I was wrong. And I went to her and I said, you're right. I need to start using decodable text within guided reading group. And I finally read the book she suggested, which was David Kilpatrick, Equipped for Literacy Success. And I just gained from from his book, the two key concepts that kept standing out was phonemic awareness towards proficiency and letter sound knowledge. So it just gave me tunnel vision as a kindergarten teacher to focus on those two skills. That was last year in about January when I started coming away with that tunnel vision of I need letter sound proficiency and phonemic awareness proficiency. So what does that look like in kindergarten? We have data notebooks where we assess students' letter sound knowledge. Well, letter sound knowledge is different than letter sound proficiency. And I started assessing my kindergartners using a 1-minute letter sound assessment page. And that provided me information. Which letters are students confusing? Where can I target students at? And it just started showing me gaps within their letter sound knowledge. So then not only did I focus on what they were accurate in with their letter sound knowledge, but what was their rate? Like how many letter sounds could they tell me within a minute? Because I wanted them to get towards that proficiency, if that makes sense. So moving students toward letter sound proficiency. So what that looks like is they're not flinching when they see a letter. They know it by heart and they can say it. So then please stop me if I'm talking too much.
No, you're good.
Okay, so then in the fall, I wanted to start a sound wall. And I had no idea what that was going to look like. You use the resource from Pam Kastner's Wakelet on sound walls. And then I also use the resource, I believe it's Tools for Reading, their sound wall. I just purchased that. Yeah. And then I started reading through the book. It's very easy to kind of get intimidated by different terms like fricatives and stop sounds and continuous sounds, because I wasn't just trained in that. So I felt like I was in unknown territory, or it was like a foreign language. But then I reached out to the speech and language pathologists at my school, and I would highly recommend, if you're kind of feeling like me, like, oh, this is a new language, even though this is English, I would just definitely encourage you to reach out to your speech and language pathologist. They are a wealth of information. And she sat down with me for 15 minutes and she gave me strategies to apply when I would do our our Hegarty, our blue book for Hegarty for phonemic awareness activities. She said, whenever you do some of those activities, if you have a prop, make sure that prop is by your mouth. So then students are paying attention to the articulatory features when you're doing the phonological activities. Then she also said, you can make, if you start seeing your students' attention wane, then pull in just random objects. So for example, I have this big basket, and when we're breaking apart syllables, I just pull random objects out of the basket to just keep their attention. So seeking out the speech and language pathologist, because they have such a vast of information. And she also just reminded me of, anytime you introduce a sound, make sure you think, what does it feel like in your mouth? And have students ask themselves, what does it feel like in your mouth? And what does it look like? And what is it? And then, and is our voice vibrating? And she also added the cool strategy of covering your ears, because then you can hear if it's a voiced or unvoiced sound. And then just filter lessons through a lens of sound science. So what does that mean? Well, obviously, I can't teach Lucy Calkins picture power. I just can't teach that. So that was the lesson that I threw out. And not only was that one lesson, but there were multiple lessons where students had to look at the beginning sound or just alter it a little bit. Instead of paying attention just to the beginning sound, we're going to pay attention to the whole word. So just having a lens of, here's some sound science, and I'm not going to be having my students pay attention to pictures. I'm not going to have them be guessing words based upon a beginning sound. I really, what is my sound science that I'm not going to be straying from? And something else too of at the beginning of the year, it's so easy to allow excuses of, oh, wow, well, this child, they didn't have preschool. So yeah, they're going to be behind. But as soon as those excuses come into my mind, just squashing them and saying, nope, I can see a gap. Okay, you didn't have preschool. You don't know your letter sounds. And of course, you don't know your letters right now either. So we're going to get you to where you need to be. So just making sure that I'm finding gaps. That's what I kind of keep looking for too, of where's my students' gaps and addressing it from there. And just knowing that there isn't that gold nugget of a program that's going to address all students' needs. So just realizing that we are experts in our classroom and we can see their gaps and find strategies to meet them where they're at. Another example, last year I noticed that I was providing a lot of small group lessons for students with continuous blending. So I just thought, well, we're going to anticipate that that's probably just a stage that kids go through with their reading process of needing to have continuous blending. So what I tried this year, and it has worked well, is singing, just singing the sounds. And we go quickly through our letter sounds flashcards, and then I set them up with a CVC pattern like yoff, and we'll just go yoff, yoff. And so just helping, so they're just singing sounds. And then that just has helped me have smaller group, more focused group on reading, because they already know the expectation of, oh, well, I just blend those sounds together. One story, I have a student this year who never had preschool, low poverty family, and on the FAST benchmark score, the FAST benchmark program predicted that they would not meet spring goal. Well, this child rocked the winter assessment and they passed the winter assessment, and they're going to pass the spring assessment too. And that child, he looks at me when he is reading nonsense words, and he seems like he has been reading nonsense words since birth, because it's just the expected, oh, well, you put those letters in front of me, I can blend that together, because that has been explicitly and systematically taught. So yeah, I think a couple more things too, of determine non-negotiables. Just knowing in my classroom, if we have a class party, there are things that just will get taken. Some things have to give, but I know in my classroom, my students will get phonemic awareness instruction. Even though we're having those class parties, we will do our letter sound review. We will have an opportunity to get to practice reading in the classroom also, whether that be with me or whether that be independent. So just determine those non-negotiables. And if there's disengagement, just find a way to make it novel for students to increase that engagement. Because going back to those non-negotiables, it's very rare that during those non-negotiable times, I don't want my students sitting. I want them to be active participants within my classroom. And because I know how important those phonological awareness skills are, and I know how important those phonic skills and blending activities are. And so thank you so much for letting me share.
Thanks, Kristen.
I really enjoyed getting to learn. So thank you.
Great ideas. Those are really good. And you know what? We need to stop blaming SES, low SES, race, poverty. We need to stop blaming, because every kid can learn to read, and that's we just got to do it.
It's so true. And when they are given, it's just so neat to get to see this child really was a blank slate coming in, and it's just an opportunity to get to say, look at this child has just taken off, and the path of his life is definitely changed, and he has impacted my life too. So, but it's exciting work. to get to be part of this. And I am so thankful for the teachers, parents, and researchers that have just gone ahead and really laid the foundation of this solid science and getting the information out there, because it definitely does make an impact. I had 5 students not pass the fall benchmark scores on FAST for early literacy, and my entire class has passed this winter. And not only are they passing, but they perceive themselves and they see themselves as readers. And something I'm gonna keep talking, but this book right here,
Yes,
this teaching reading source book is amazing. I just borrowed it, checked it out from the library. Anyways, it doesn't matter where I checked out, but what really is interesting to me is the stages and phases of reading, and how when you look at the pre-alphabetic phase and the partial alphabetic phase, it talks about beginning readers tend to rely heavily on context, usually the pictures in a book, to guess what a word is. As I was reading this weekend, it made me realize I had my students stuck in these phases because I was explicitly teaching them to stick in those phases. So it just makes sense why now, when I'm very explicit in teaching sounds and we focus on sounds, what does your mouth feel like? What does it look like? Then they're moving to the full alphabetic phase faster than I've ever seen kids move, because the focus is on moving students towards letter sound proficiency and phonemic awareness proficiency. So this book again is pretty cool if you haven't had the chance to look at it. Teaching reading source book from CORE.
Yep.
But,
and they also have the assessment book too. That's very good. I mean, it goes from beginning. Yeah, they have. In fact, I was going to go try to find mine.
Yeah, that's great. I've never even heard of that one.
Yeah, it's somewhere. I have it somewhere. Go on their website. It's reading assessment. It's very good.
That sounds great.
Okay, so that's CORE. Look under CORE, CORE. Teaching reading source book. So someone posted about, what do you do about when you have to report in levels? So let's talk about that. You guys had a chance to look at your
I just wanted to show the assessing reading if anybody wanted to see.
Oh, there it is. I have one too somewhere.
Assessing reading multiple measures. There it is.
Yeah. It's like the best handbook ever.
It's awesome.
It's all in one place, right? I gotta close my door. Okay. All right. So what do we do about when you have to report levels? What are some things you do? And we know how useful levels are, right? I mean, really, you get nothing. I don't think you get anything out of a level. It's how many words that kid has memorized. Anyone? Someone. Oh, come on, Christopher. All right. He said he's going to be in debt now. Okay, so somebody said that what they do is for their the levels, they'll report. They assess only. They're not. Okay, Heather, I only use the F&P books for assessment purposes. Otherwise, I will use decodables. I use the F&P books as a guide for me so that I can make sure I'm hitting with those spelling patterns. Okay, on high frequency words. And then somebody else mentioned, I've one student who improved by 5 F&P levels, but when I used Dibbles, he was only able to answer 2 questions. Then I've another student who is reading above grade level but can't write or read nonsense words. Okay, that's a kid that really needs to have continue with that sound symbol, and it's speech first, speech to print. When you're using leveled readers, it's a print to speech concept. So like Kristen said, you want to focus on sounds. It's a sound, our language is a sound-based language. Here's one from Jen. Yes, those levels mean nothing to me now as a reading interventionist. When teachers tell me the student level, I must admit it goes in one ear, not the other. I love it. Okay, Consortium on Reading Excellence Core. Yep, okay. Does anyone teach secondary working on reading? Would love to hear how they're managing. Yeah. Oh, and that's the problem, you know, kids that are, you know, we can remember about 5,000 words, and then you hit that wall in 3rd, 4th grade, you can't remember, your brain can't take in any more words, and you absolutely have no decoding skills when you get to middle school. And so, you know, that's the problem that we see. It's just, you know, it's terrible when those kids get up there. Let's see. Remove all pinned videos, I think. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm making this up here. All right. I think unless anyone else anything else to say, I'm out of ideas. Can anyone recommend decodable readers? If you go to our Science of Reading site under guides, there's a couple of archived lists or not lists, but entries. I can't think of the word, posts that have all of the decodables. Spire is very good. Flyleaf is very good. Okay, anyone else?
Donna, I was gonna mention that, like, what level do you give parents? Oops, sorry, because I know some parents will go to the library and look for a level. So what we're trying to do is take our California state standards and look at our phonics, our phonics standards, and somehow match that up to, because like I said, we didn't want to pull the rug from under folks completely. So we're trying to do some kind of like analysis of when you're in a level 6 or 8, when you're, you know, thinking about levels, what type of words come up there, what kind of phonics skills. So we're really trying to make that connection, but it's very difficult.
You know what? I don't know if you can, because
I know you can't. We found, at least in 1st grade, when we're trying to match up the 1st grade phonics, that it's not something that can easily be done. So we're just telling parents, these are the phonics skills, like these are the vowel patterns that students have learned. So you're looking for books, but it's really difficult as a parent to pick a book up at Barnes and Noble, wherever you're at. So we're encouraging, we bought so many decodable books at different ranges for our teachers to send home, because especially right now that there's tons of money, because there's no other way to send a parent off to say, well, let me pick up a book and see if this one has those vowel patterns. But we at least wanted to inform the parents, these are the vowel patterns they've learned. These are the high frequency words that we have explicitly taught. But we could not make that direct match. Like we really tried with 1st grade, and it was so difficult to line that up.
You know, and you think about when you are asking kids to read a leveled reader, it's a hit or miss thing, right? If they're going to be able to decode the words. And the same thing with parents, when you give them that level, what does that mean to them? What does that mean to teachers? Teachers don't even know what levels mean. It means, okay, that they're in the next level, but you know, levels are based on number of words in a sentence, complexity of the word. It is not based on phonics. And that's the biggest problem with leveled readers. And you know, everyone's heard the saying, it leads to leveled lives. We have a YouTube that was extremely well done by Readsters and Linda Farrell and Michael Hunter, called Decodables and Leveled Readers. And I don't know if any of you saw it, but it's on my YouTube channel, and it's so well done. And at the end of it, she talks about when you can transition from decodables to levels. And so she gives an idea You need to know your short vowels. You need to know some long vowel patterns of the final E pattern, some 2-syllable words. So thanks, Sarah. So anyway, that's very helpful. The other thing, I don't know if you've seen the purple crayon video that you can share with people. It's in my welcome letter, and it's about a scientist in California, a researcher, has a daughter, and she was teaching the daughter. The daughter could not read the color purple. And at the end, she was demonstrating, and she proved that the reason she couldn't read the color purple is because she didn't have any decoding skills and was completely relying on contextual clues. And so that, to me, is like hands down the biggest way to defend your position about leveled readers and versus phonics, phonetic approach. So anyone else? I don't want to keep you on too long. I did say 2 hours, but I feel like I'm just talking here, and I don't want to do that. Okay, yes, the purple crayon. So it's on the welcome letter. It's in the files. All those are in there. So take a look at those. All right, are we good? Okay. Thank you. Oh, we got one more. Linda?
Yes.
Hello.
I just want to make an observation more so than share.
Sure.
I'm listening to this, and it's a very similar conversation when Lucy Corker started the writing project in New York City, and what I'm hearing is all or none, right? And so I'm hoping people are not saying, "Oh, I'm going to throw out the baby with the bathwater." I hear balanced literacy, because for me, balanced literacy is more than just the reading component of Lucy Calkins, right? And so, yes, they had a aspect, a very important aspect of reading left out of their program, and that's the reason why, as a teacher at that time, I didn't like the program, and I had to augment it myself. But what I'm hearing is a lot about, oh, we don't want balanced literacy. I'm seeing that in posts on Facebook. I'm hearing similar kind of conversations here. But there's very good elements of balanced literacy, right? That you should not think about throwing away, because children need more than just reading, decoding, right? So comprehension, fluency, and all of those things that come into practice helps for them to comprehend when they read. Sometimes having a very strong, personally, I was not a very good phonetic reader, right? But I had a very strong sight vocabulary. I read books, I learned words, I learned a lot, but so I was able to be successful in school.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that it was to happen, but I'm saying that we can't just throw certain things out. I mean, I think there are things that I think are great with SOR, and there are things that I think are great with balanced literacy, and maybe we should learn to infuse those elements instead of saying, oh, it has to be just one or the other. It shouldn't be one. There are things that's missing in SOR. Lots of things, right? Just like there are things that are missing in balanced literacy.
Thanks, Linda. And
I just wanted to share my opinion about because it's not all or none.
I think that was the reason for our conversation today, was to see how we can infuse more of the science of reading in a balanced literacy classroom. And, I guess I would love to know what actually balanced literacy means, because there is no definition of it. And I think it came from, it started, I believe, after the National Reading Panel, and they said, oh, we need more phonics. And so it used to be called whole language. Correct me if I'm wrong. It used to be called whole language. And then the shift started to say balance, because the balance included whole word reading, understanding of context, and then some phonics thrown in, okay? And that was supposed to balance it. So, I think what you're saying is that we need to consider, not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, consider the good aspects of balanced literacy. It is all about understanding. I mean, what's our ultimate goal is to understand what we're reading, right? And to be good consumers of text and to enjoy reading and not make it painful. It's also about becoming literate in terms of writing and reading. We need to do both. And sometimes if we're just focused on meaning, we can't get our kids to that stage where they're good writers and they're good spellers and they're good decoders. You can't get there. Not everybody. About 40% of kids can learn to read no matter what you do, read and write. So that's great. And that's where Lucy Calkins and Fontes and Pinnell and those programs do well with those kids. It's the other 60% that need more. And science and reading is not going to hurt anyone, and it'll just enhance the skills that they have. Everyone benefits from it, and no one is hurt by it. So
I agree. As a teacher, like I said, back then, when whole language started to show up, I wasn't a proponent of that. I fought my principal tooth and nail. I really did. So I do understand that. But what I did garner from it, because I had to learn how to incorporate it in my instruction, was that there are definitely elements that I think that are missing in other things as well, right? That's very strong in that program. So that's why I'm just saying, let's not just throw it out. Look at the things that are good, because once they start reading, okay, what's the next level? What's the next level? Okay, you teach them, they can decode words. Do they have a comprehension? How do you work on that? How does now you go into the different types of reading? Types of literature and things like. I mean, so I think that it's more than just saying what this is what I'm hearing about SOR.
Yes, and I don't want you
that
to
is just
think because I
foundational
science
skill.
of reading is really structured literacy, and structured literacy encompasses phonics, phonemic awareness, writing, spelling, morphology, and it's structured in that we do it in a structured way, in a sequential way, and I think that's the frustration with a whole language approach, or Fontes Pinnell or Lucy, is that we're just going to love reading because we're reading, and I think that it puts kids that are challenged at a direct disadvantage, because you can't love something that is difficult or impossible to do. And so that's their concept about I want everyone to love reading. Well, who doesn't? But that's not a reality. You can't expect everyone to love something when they can't do it. So that's my big thing. And in defense of Lucy, I think she is a smart woman in that she's recognizing the faults of her program. Now, F&P, have we heard from them at all? No, they're laying low. And that to me is a sign that they're not ready to admit that there's a problem here and how we're going to fix it. So I don't know. That's.
I just feel that sometimes the people that are in the trenches, teachers, right, need to have a little bit more voice, right, in the sense that decisions are made based on quote unquote research based, right, and And so I understand about research. You know, I have a doctorate, so I understand research even more now, right? So,
I bet.
well, exactly. So we have to be very cognizant that sometimes research is just a person's opinion, right? That they used, you know, their thought process of something, right? And that's what happened to me. What I think Lucy Calkins, right, is what her and her group thought that this is what reading should look like, right? So and then that became everybody's mantra. And for over 20 something years, we messed up children.
Yep. Well, and I think Ken Goodman was aligned to that too. It was his science, his research. And I think that's, you know, that's
so
what
I just wanted to
thank you.
Bring that up just a little, because one, I hear like, oh, we made mistakes. No one made a mistake. It's not even our fault, right? It's no fault of any teacher.
No, it's not the teacher's fault. This problem is so comprehensive. It's so complex. You know, you can't point your finger at any one source of the problem, because it's multi-layered as problematic. Okay, I'm gonna go on. Thank you. Okay, we have A boys, I think. Next.
Oh, hi. So I just wanted to say, I guess just a follow up, like I also had a conversation with my principal. I'm in New York City also. I had, you know, got onto the science of reading by starting off with Emily Hanford podcast and then following you. And so I started to try to implement decodable text in my school. And when I went to my AP, he said, you know, I said, because at the time we had a literacy coach and she bought Fontes and Pinnell. And then the next year they were going to buy more Fontes and Pinnell. And so I went to him and I said, I overheard him saying to somebody, we're ordering the books. And I said, I went up to his office and I was like, we need decodable. And he just kind of said to me, he was like, well, it has to be balanced. And like the idea of getting decodable books was just something that was not really on the table. And like, it always comes back to me and I think he didn't really, it's like, does he even know what that means? Like you just said, like, what does balanced literacy mean?
I don't know what it means.
And so I guess I just continue. I feel like it's really hard to get the message into my school. And like the one point I wanted to say was, I guess I was just having a hard time going with my thoughts, but like what you said about, I think the biggest shift is the 3Qing, you know, so it's like my principal, we have phonics now, and he's like that. I think that a lot of principals think by having the phonics piece that they've taken care of it. But I always feel it's like that next piece of, okay, we're teaching the letters, we're teaching the sounds, but how much practice are the kids getting with decoding? And,
exactly,
you know, going with the balanced literacy idea or, you know, the shift, I think we're still doing that comprehension piece. Like we have Hegarty, we have foundations, and then we go into, you know, more the interactive read aloud where we're, you know, reading a text as a class and talking about, you know, comprehension and then doing the writing piece. But it's that period where either we're doing guided reading or, you know, like the shift has to be, instead of giving them the decodable text, giving them the guided F&P books, using decodable text so they can practice the phonics that they're learning.
Right, the fluency of the words, right. I mean, yeah, you're right. So yeah, you do, you know, your lessons can be, especially in small group, can be very phonics based, but your whole group, you still have to address the comprehension, the storyline and vocabulary. That's real critical. And no one's asking people to throw that out. I think, you know, I think that's what's, from what I've seen, is like, it's all or nothing. You know, we're just going to do complete decodables. Well, then where do you get your comprehension piece come in? And where do you get the storyline and conversations about vocabulary? And what does that mean? You have to include both of that. But kids, we're not telling kids to just sound out, just to have complete decodables. If a kid can read a whole word, have at it, you know, put them in those, give them those leveled readers as independent reading. But again, like I said earlier, that the decodable text is not going to hurt them, or the phonics instruction is not going to hurt them. And in fact, they really need, they need that for spelling, to become good spellers. So you could have levels in your classroom of, you know, the kids that need intensive phonics and kids that need, you expose them to it once, they're good to go. No, I don't know. I don't want to feel like I'm taking over conversations here, but that's my thinking on this, and you know, what we can do to help that in your classrooms. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
And for anyone who's interested in learning more about, not necessarily SOR, but more about the phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, I'm coming to the end of a course by Sasha Bernstein.
Oh yeah.
Who is phenomenal. So if anyone wants to really get a good grasp on what you should be doing, in terms of the phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, and phonics, and the morphology, and all the the whole thing, shebang, I would suggest look her up. It's Sasha Bernstein.
Yep.
She has a book. Hold on, her book is called How to Teach Reading and Spelling.
Yep, she's done some trainings for us, and I just put her name in the chat, and she has a website. She has a real solid knowledge of science, of the sounds. And so if you take her class, you'll know exactly why kids are making mistakes and how you can help them. It's really well done. So, all right.
I'm done now. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Linda. All right, are we good? All right, we have 36 people that hung in there with us. Someone's hand just went up. Who is it?
Can I share?
Sure.
I just wanted to say hello. I'm here in Bermuda. So just wanted to say hi to everyone from Bermuda. And also, I have introduced the science of reading to the staff in my school. And I think they all sort of hopped on it, and they were really excited about it, which made me feel really good, because they started to do their own research and I just jumped on the wagon. So it sort of made things a little bit easier for me. I didn't have to do a lot of, like side talks and things like that. But I have noticed now that there is one teacher in particular. She's gone on Pay Teachers, and she's ordered this whole program that, somebody's put on there, and she's just teaching from it. And I'm trying, and now she's actually sharing it with the other teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great and all. I looked through it, and there's great pieces to it, but I'm really trying to get them to understand the why of it. Like, why are you doing these pieces?
Right.
Because I feel like they're all really looking for something. They have so much on their plates, which I understand. I bang my head to all classroom teachers. I don't know how they do it on a daily basis. And I know they have so much to do, and they're just looking for something that they can just read from and just do. And I'm really trying to figure out a way to sort of get them away from just reading from a script and doing whatever the script tells them.
Right.
So
you're right.
I don't know if maybe that might open up some conversation, but I have decided on my own every other Tuesday after hours, if they would like to join me, I'm doing some PD, just to sort of introduce the why and things like that. So I don't know if anybody can help me out there, or some conversation around that.
Oh, there's so many resources that we could provide for you. to do that PD. Yeah, and again, you know, start small. How about doing the book study?
Yeah. Yep, I thought about that as well.
And because the book study, the book goes into the reasons of why the
Yeah.
shift can be made. So all the work is done for you.
Yeah.
That's what I would recommend. And there's a free study guide. So it's all
And
there
also
for you.
the I was looking at the 6 shifts thing. I'm sorry, I've been back and forth still. I haven't been here completely for the whole 2 hours. But I also saw when you brought up the 6 shifts and the different downloads they have there. So that could be awesome as well to share.
Yeah, they've got a lot of resources on that site. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to find my picture. I can't find it. Oh well. Okay, anyone else? This was really good. I really am grateful for you to come and share your thoughts. You know, if you want anything else, just message me and we can maybe put something together. But this was really important for me to have this discussion. And I hope you got something out of it as well. All right, we're all good. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you everyone for all you do every day. I appreciate all of you. All right. Good night.